2023 is looked at by the lunar year calendar as the year of the rabbit. And I guarantee you, if you're a Sonic fan, certain female rabbits are going to get a lot of attention this year. From Vanilla to Bunny to several others that I can't name right now. But with that said, we can also look back at 2022 as a year for people like me of discovery. Discovery of the fact that it seems that Tails, and I'm sure I've talked about this in some shape or form before, is basically touted as a ladies' man. That's no joke. I mean, there are various stories out there involving Tails in such predicaments. I mean, I just mentioned that this year's the year of the rabbit, and Bunny and Vanilla, and even Cream to some extent, are involved in these kind of situations. That's right. Bunny is involved in not just one, but several situations. For example, one of the more prominent ones is Southern Foxy Loving. In that, as I mentioned in my review, Bunny is basically some sexual urges, needs that need to be satisfied, and the guy she is married to, just like she's married to him in the Archie Sonic books, Antoine doesn't want to satisfy those urges. Now, we could probably understand that, personality-wise, characteristic-wise, that this is the kind of person Antoine is. He's not someone that wants to defile, the love of his life because maybe he feels it would be inappropriate or whatever. So what does Bunny do to satisfy these urges? Well, she goes to the only other canine, if you will, in New Mobotropolis, knothole, if you will, that would probably be able to do it, and that's Tails. Yes, it's described in the story that she's actually fantasized about probably, doing it with Tails, I think even before her and Antoine got married. Now, the catch here is this story actually takes place several years in the future to where Tails is, of age and isn't looked down upon as a kid anymore. And in this story, basically, when Tails sees Bunny sitting on a bench, in the city, in one of the city parks, he invites her over to have a little tea and discuss what's going on. And when Bunny kind of tells him, knowing that, hey, he's old enough to understand now, what's going on, once she informs him of what's happening, yeah, he's a little, I wouldn't say embarrassed or anything, but he kind of gets a little reddish from the description and kind of basically excuses himself to go get the tea so that he can divert from the conversation into something else. Well, this is when Bunny comes to the realization, hey, he's got me at his place. This might be the only opportunity I have. So what does she do? As I mentioned in my review that I did 5 months ago, she basically starts to seduce him when he comes back with the tea by showing off parts of her body to him, and then even, kissing him on the neck, and then potentially kissing him on the lips, and allowing herself to basically melt into his body. Now, like I mentioned in my review, it's not melt into like a gooey puddle of gunk and cover him, no. We're talking basically, she's allowing herself to really lean into him. Basically, basically push herself onto him to the point that it feels like she's melting on top of him. And Tails at first, of course, is reluctant, but then when she kind of explains the situation, and then Tails kind of puts it all together, like, you know what, this is a chance I can't pass up, and everything, she's too hot, and if Antoine's not willing to do it, then heck, if she wants me to do it for her because he won't, then I'll do it. And he proceeds to do, such a thing. And the way the story describes their intercourse, if you will, the intimacy, it's almost like basically Cyberfox, who's the person behind it, almost makes it sound like, I should say, and visually in your mind look like that, they're falling in love with each other. That even though she's married, the way things are described into intimacy in the moment, in the intercourse, it sounds like she and Tails, I should say, are falling in love with each other, with descriptions of gazing into each other's eyes deeply, doing this, doing that. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe that's what I wanted to do originally. Like maybe one of the ideas is that something would happen between her and Antoine that would cause her to be single again, but also have these urges and by having these urges go to Tails, satisfy, and he would do what what he ends up doing in the story anyway, ends up satisfying them, and then by elimination of process, they end up falling in love. That's what it sounds like to me, just by the description of the story, of the direction he wanted to go. But Southern Fox 11 is not the only one. As I've mentioned before, we have stories of a mother in need. A Mother in Need is basically a story where Sally's mom, Alicia, also from the Archie Sonic comics, is getting these urges, and Max, who's being stubborn, as he's depicted in the pre-reboot, stories of the comic, her husband, Sally's dad, Max, doesn't want to, put out. So what happens? Sally, in this story, in this Elseworld story, is dating Tails, who, again, is of age. So because he's of age, and Sally's seeing that, hey, my mom has these urges, convinces Tails, hey, you want to help me out here with something? And Tails, of course, being, Sally's boyfriend in the story, is like, sure, what do you need? She basically explains the situation with her mom. Her mom, of course, is a little reluctant at first, but then after some convincing gets into it, and, the rest is history. I mean, we even have a little bit of a moment where basically both Alicia and Sally end up kissing each other while they're trying to lick each other's faces clean of a certain white stuff, if you will, from Tails. So you got stories like that. You got stories like Dissatisfied Wives Club or Dissatisfied Wife, which is basically a remake of Teaching Tales with Sally and Bunny wanting, to have their urges itched, scratched, if you will, and they go to Tails, and so on. Then you got, stories that go through multiple chapters, and I mean multiple. You've got Tails Harem. You got Tails Harem Tales. You've got, Miles and the MILFs, if you will. You got something of the Wives of Mobius thing, where Fiona basically sets Tails up to be part of this, exclusive club where basically all the husbands, all the boyfriends previous to Tails and even after Tails get a shot of, getting it on with all the other girls, around that they know of that are willing. Yeah, the Wives of Mobius one, I think that's what it's called. Basically, like I said, it's Fiona, who's married to Tails in this, believe it or not, dating married to Tails, agreeing to let Tails take his turn at satisfying a lot of the sexual urges that some of the female characters have. And what's crazy and unique, and Tails discovers this in the story, is that all the guys, the husbands, the boyfriends of these girls are okay with it as long as they get a turn as well with the other girls, not with the other, with the girls as well when it comes up to their moment, up to their time. And it's really interesting. It's really an interesting, take on, bringing an older version of Tails in this, into this kind of environment, because even he's like a little confused until he kind of gets the idea of, you have stories of him getting together with Nicole, like Interrogation and Virtually Together. You have stories like that. I mean, just a bunch out there at places like fanfiction.net and Ink Bunny and so on. It's just amazing. It's just amazing that out of all the characters, male and female, Tails is the one that's always put into these situations. And, give credit where it's due. Like I've said before, at least they are willing, the people behind the stories, they are willing to put, some well, I wouldn't say too much conflict, but some kind of like unsureness, with with certain characters like Tails and even Alicia Acorn and and so on because of the situation. But at the end of the day, these are very fun, adult oriented stories that you don't really have to take seriously, because even though they do have a narrative to some of them, I should say, depending on how many multi-chapters they are, at the end of the day, they're just little fun stories to get a kick out of, and probably mainly have a laugh at, especially the way the writers describe the intimate actions Tails takes with some of these female characters and such. But yeah, like I said at the beginning, I'll say here in closing, if this year is looked at as the year of the rabbit, I can guarantee you right now that last year, for people like me, last year, 2022, was the year of Tails, having his fun, if you know what I mean, with the girls of Mobius, but the girls of Sonic, if you will. But what do you guys think? Have you read some of these stories that I mentioned at fanfiction.net or Ink Bunny? Let me know what your thoughts are. Comment down below. Live chat during the premiere. Like the video. You will get an audio podcast version of this down the line. And until next time, guys, I will talk to you all later. Take care. God bless. And I am out. But let me know what your thoughts are.